And one of the things that I said is that I think women today have so much of an issue with the content in the sector because by arming men with information, you give them power. Information is power. The more that you know, the more damage that you can do. I began to talk about the importance of men. I began to talk about the importance of fathers. And what she said to me is that men aren't needed within a family to raise a child. I turned around and looked at my boy. Then he said something. He said to her in a very calming voice, "Do you really think that I am not necessary to raise our son?" And she replied, "No." When a man loses his leverage within life, it is a sad, sad, sad thing to witness. And it's even way more sad when that person that you watch lose it is your boy. Guys, I got another story to talk you through here today. So buckle up. It'll be a wild ride. Wait till the end of the video and make sure you write your comment down below because I'm going to hear you guys' thoughts regarding this particular situation. Now, I was out none too long ago, all right? I've been trying to enact a little bit more balance within my life, but I can only do that because I've been working hard as shit the last couple of years, building up this YouTube channel. Most of you guys out there, keep on grinding, keep on hustling. There's ebbs and flows in life. Continue to flow within your flow state. Anyway, I digress. I was out. Now, let me give you the scenario. The people that were in this particular situation, all right? There was my boy. My boy's been married 6-7 years or something like that. His wife, all right? Now, my boy's boy is single, okay? Friend of a friend. Now, he's quickly becoming my friend because I find out that we have a lot of different things within common, all right? He loves this content within this particular space. That's one thing that we have in common. He agrees wholeheartedly, all right? So it's my boy who's married, his wife, my boy's boy who's becoming my boy, and then there's another couple that's there. I don't know them whatsoever. They're not married, though. They're just in a relationship. Anyway, let me give you guys also kind of the history of my boy and his wife, okay? We call each other frenemies, right? We're cool by proxy, but she hates my channel. She hates it. But what's funny, though, is that she's never actually seen a video. She just knows and has heard the word male podcast thrown around, and as well as my channel and my name being thrown around. And within her, there's some type of identity of male podcasts and a whole bunch of negative ish. By the way, you ever go on a date with a chick or something like that? You mention two things. Kevin Samuel's name, let's say three things. Kevin Samuel's name, Andrew Tate, or male podcast. You probably will not get no butt that night. That's 99% effective for killing your chances of butt, okay? Anyway, so a topic of the conversation of the particular night came up specific to my channel, as what it kind of sort of does when I'm out with my boy and his wife. She always seems to bring it up or make it a point because of the things that she knows about the space. I bet you that she actually agrees with some of the things, but there's something about her westernized feminist conditioning that just disallows her for understanding the points in her positions that are being stated. So she just likes to fight this shit. It's so weird to me because it's like, if you don't want to hear her speak, then don't ask questions about the things that I speak about. But I believe that there's a degree of masochism or something within it. Like you don't want to hear the shit, but you just want to hear it anyway. All right. But anyway, so the topic of male podcasts came up. And of course, the young lady that was just in a relationship began to bark when she heard male podcasts. My boy's wife began to bark as well. Now, as the barking continued, as why male podcasts exist, one of the points that I said is that women have had the mic for decades in describing men, the things that they want out of men, big D energy, how tall is he, the checklist, I ain't willing to settle, I want him to pay for me while I get a job to pay for my, all of the things that we know about particular relationship dynamics. And one of the things that I said is that I think women today have so much of an issue with the content in the sector because by arming men with information, you give them power. Information is power. The more that you know, the more damage that you can do. And there's one thing about a modern woman today that I have come to identify is that they hate losing power. They hate losing ground. They continue to fight for something that just doesn't exist. There's not a patriarchy within American society today, but you have convinced yourself that you live in an oppressive state. Why? Because you do not want to relinquish power. So of course, the response from this was, no, we don't care about power. We just hate what you guys talk about in there. It's so degrading to women. I said, what we talk about. Now, at this point in the conversation is kind of split up. It's kind of my boy's boy is talking to the girl in the relationship, and I am more so talking to my boy's wife. But honestly, I don't think that she got it. I think it went way over her head. But see, in these conversations, I like to play discussion chess as opposed to discussion tic-tac-toe. So in response, I said to her that, well, one of the things that I talk about, and here's the thing, is that when they start talking about things that you want to talk about, they're just naming general things, but honestly, they have a hard time bringing out specifically what the problems are. So I'm trying to help her. So I said, well, one of the things that I talk about on my channel is the irony of the modern woman today. And one of the ironies is that most women will say that they want their guy to be honest, to be truthful with them. But the irony within that is that the more truthful that you are to women regarding a man's thoughts, feelings, or ideologies, the more that they hate you for it. For you see, madam, is that modern media today is constructed around pandering advertisements or pandering media for the eyes of women. Why? Because women make 80% of the household purchasing decisions today. And at the point that I say this, the eyes went bloodshot. The fingers started to wag in my face as she continued to go down the roller coaster ride of her points that just didn't make any sense. And in my mind, selfishly, I was thinking, God damn it, I wish that there was a camera right here, because if I put this conversation up to YouTube right now, 1 million views, 50,000 likes. Because what was happening in this part of the conversation is the same thing that I know that happens to you guys so often when you're trying to have these logic-driven based conversation with the modern woman today who has been lied to throughout her life. And she's been conditioned to believe all of this bullshit up to and including having a low level of hate for most men out there, and as well as a low level hate for men talking about men improving themselves through information. Because again, they'll lose their power. And honestly, the reason why I was saying that is because I was trying to draw parallels as to reason why male podcasts exist versus the reason that we're having this particular conversation, and you are emotionally or irrationally reacting to the normal ass words that I'm saying within it. So when you're raised and being lied to or pandered to, when a man has an opposite angle or an opposite point, then you have a problem with it. Thus, men can't be truthful to women, especially as butt is the goal. Just as I said earlier, watch you say you agree with some shit that Kevin Samuels says and see how fast that date is going to end. Nevertheless, her response to me off of something which is not an egregious statement, not a ridiculous statement. I would say that statement is based in rationale. And at this point, in conjunction within the argument, I would expect some logic back. But expecting logic and rationale and well thought out response from the modern woman today seems to be a little too much worth asking for. What I received in response was sign language beyond any degree of sign language that I think that a married woman should hurl across another man that is friends with the person that she is married to. The comments begin to range in things such as, I don't even understand how any woman will be attracted to you ever. And I said, well, listen, madam, actually, I can't shake women off with a stick. Her response to that is, oh, they must be young women, thereby denoting within her feelings that young women must be dumb. And therefore, those are the only ones that are attracted to you, which I find so honestly interesting because I thought you was all for women's empowerment, but young women are dumb now, apparently. She also began to hurl the modern woman's lexicon of bad words at me, such as, you are narcissistic for having a platform where you give your opinion regarding things. Who are you? Said the married modern woman. Who are you to pass judgment? Who are you to criticize? Who are you to give feedback on? Why does your opinion matter? And at this point of the conversation, I looked at my buddy who was sitting there watching the entire conversation. And I looked at him while he looked away. And I'm thinking to myself, well, goddamn, when did this happen? I thought you was my boy. But at the same time, I said to myself, he has to do that. What I say at the beginning of this, it sucks watching a man lose his leverage because he knows, and I know, that conversations like this can be the catalyst of the beginning of the end. And what does the beginning of the end mean for men? Well, it means being the breadwinner, getting half your shit taken. It means for men losing access to your child. It means for men losing years out on their life because they did what they thought was right and or accurate and got punished for it. All of this literally was flipping through my head as I'm looking at him, whistle and look away. And when I turned back to her, she said to me, you should be conducting yourself this way on your particular platform, and began to name all of these different things that my platform should be about. And I said, listen, ma'am, it is ironic as hell that you call me narcissistic for having an opinion about modern society today, yet you are so narcissistic to think that I should change my platform in accordance to what you think. This is why it's so important for men to have male spaces. It's damn near a requirement at this point. There's too many young men out there that are going into these relationships misinformed or ill-informed, that are getting into relationships with women that do not deserve the dirt that they stand on. And also having male spaces, it's a huge benefit for women to be a silent watcher, a silent listener. 'Cause see, someone like her would have benefited in understanding that men thrive off of status. We thrive off of power, and we are competitive as hell for it, as well as our respect. And one of the biggest ways that you can disrespect a man is to disrespect his friend. It's to disrespect his boys. Think about it from a status perspective. And shout out to Andrew Tate, because I heard him articulate it the best way that I've heard it yet. And a woman that helps a man derive his status is a woman that respects his boys. It's the woman where you're coming back home from the club and she has a meal ready for you and your boys when y'all enter in the door. So the boys look at you like, goddamn, you're the man, because look at what your beautiful woman is doing for you and all of us. She is a goddamn keeper. But the modern woman today has been conditioned into being competitive with men, has been conditioned to not let men be men and to define what a real man is, or what a male podcast or a male platform should be about. You see, men don't care about women's spaces. Y'all have y'all talk shows. Y'all have y'all Ricky Lakes. Y'all have y'all Rolandas. Y'all have y'all Oprahs. Y'all have y'all Lifetimes. We don't care. Have y'all shit. But we got a little space where men talk about men shit. None of that fluffy relationship bullshit, heartstrings, soft ass music in the background, which men have been creating for decades, but it's for your eyes. Men have just been tricked into watching that dumbass shit. But now we have something for us. And now we're supposed to change and conform to the way that y'all view world and the way that y'all view life, the way that y'all view relationships. It's completely and utterly absurd. But see, it's been deep rooted within her to do the exact opposite. And she has a load of education within her past, master's degrees, yada, yada, yada. And within that, she's been taught that she is oppressed. So if she hears anything that points out the wickedness of some of these modern women today, she's going to defend, even if there's not a rational, practical reason to defend. And even if that defense is within direct disrespect to her husband's boy. Whatever happened to the days of women being feminine and polite and a good representation of their families and of their husbands? But now today, they use their education, they use the amount of money that they make, and they use this veil of a patriarchy in order to subdue you while inflicting tyranny and terrorism onto the person that married them. But see, this is what happens when you give one gender the mic for decades. So again, men, keep locked to channels just like this one right here, because we don't allow them to control the mic over here. And I'll be for damn if on my watch, we allow them to control the relationship narrative going into the future. Because guess what's happened? When they've controlled the relationship narrative, look what's happening to these kids nowadays. Look what's happening to families nowadays. Look what's happening to the marriage rate nowadays. And look what's happening to the divorce rate. So no matter how much sign language that they use to try to manipulate a particular situation, gentlemen, hear me when I say this. Hold the line. So anyway, I know I got on a quick tangent right there. Let me tell you how the conversation ended. So she's hurling the subtle disrespects, the passive aggressiveness, talking about all these things that I want to mount up to and like yada, yada, yada. As her man watched, here was the linchpin of the conversation. I began to talk about the importance of men. I began to talk about the importance of fathers. And what she said to me is that men aren't needed within a family to raise a child. I turned around and looked at my boy. Then he said something. He said to her in a very calming voice, "Do you really think that I am not necessary to raise our son?" And she replied, "No." Needless to say that conversation dovetailed to her running out the bar, him chasing after her, and we didn't see them for the rest of the night. She didn't even say goodbye to the birthday boy. Here's why I regretted the conversation. I would never want topics that we talk about from this particular sector to inflict themselves into a family or a relationship, especially when where children are there, that would lead to the beginning of the end. And I'm not saying in this particular situation that amongst my buddy, it has led to the beginning of the end, but I would hate to be the particular catalyst for that. And I know as I use catalyst, it's kind of a weird word because really, am I the catalyst or the original ideologies before getting into said marriage? And I already know that car ride home for them was probably one of the worst car rides that they have had. I mean, I'm just taking a guess that I really don't know. And I imagine that the majority of her talking points would come from a perspective of how can you support what it is that he does? All the way up into not talking about it. And then a year down the line and something goes awry and saying, see, I knew this was going to happen. And I bet you it started out in that conversation a year ago with your friend MTR, when you supported him in the things that he said, when you stood by and didn't support me as your wife, I knew that you weren't the one for me. Meanwhile, totally ignoring how she chose to respond to me in an aggressive manner while I was being calm, rational, or not taking accountability for what she said was the value of her husband to their son within that. So inevitably, I don't want to be an instigator within that, but it happened. And I wanted to bring up here to be able to talk about, because as I said previously, when a man loses his leverage, it's a sad sight to see, because when he loses his leverage, he loses his individuality for the sake of the union, for the sake of the marriage. And if he dares speaks up, if he dares let his thoughts, feelings, or ideologies, or his truth really be known, then there could be hell to pay. Questions, comments, concerns. Y'all already know what to do. Mediocre tutorials and reviews at gmail.com. Guys, I've talked about it previously within content before, and just what I just hate to just see is to see men that are former shells of themselves, just that are unwilling to be themselves because they chose someone with these westernized, modern, feminist, combative ideologies. And I mean, at the end of the day, it is what it is, but I see it as a part of my mission to make sure that men are choosing correctly. Until next time, YouTube. Peace!
You don't want to see me get vexed, but Bars on your phone, tell a man you can't jack. The big yeah, the ones who can't stretch. Breaking the neck when we in the car next. You don't wanna see me get vexed. Bars on your phone, tell a man you can't jack. The big yeah, the ones who can't stretch. Breaking the neck when we in the car next. That bars need defibrillation ASAP. Get boxed with a straight guy. I'm reminded of mind state they lack.